The humanitarian crisis in South Sudan continues as fresh fighting between warring groups results in the displacement of over 100,000 civilians. During a press conference in Geneva, the UN's refugee agency said relief efforts are being hampered by the violence.
Heavy fighting in the country's Unity and Upper Nile states over the last 2 months has now displaced more than 100,000 people. It's blocking humanitarian aid deliveries for some 650,000 people as aid organizations in many of these places have been forced to withdraw. Since the beginning of the year, some 60,000 South Sudanese have fled the country mostly to Sudan, to Ethiopia, Uganda, and bringing the total South Sudanese who've fled the country since December of 2013 to more than 500,000. A reminder that another 1.5 million people are internally displaced.
But officials have said violence is not the only reason for the displacement. Chronic food insecurity brought on by irregular weather and drought has resulted in the country's worst hunger crisis in its history.
Refugees are citing the upsurge in fighting, but also growing food insecurity as the main reasons for fleeing. It's estimated that more than 3.8 million people, representing a third of South Sudan's 11 million population, do not have sufficient food.
The projection for the coming lean season, which is the next 4 months, is that there will be 4.6 million people across South Sudan that are in urgent need of humanitarian assistance and are acutely food insecure. In terms of the distribution, slightly more than half of those, 2.5 million, are found in the most conflict-affected areas that are still experiencing displacement and within the current civil war in Greater Upper Nile.
Relief agencies like UNHCR and the World Food Programme are operating well below normal funding levels, further complicating efforts to bring aid to the population.
When there's only 10% funding, you have to prioritize, and that means that a number of services, including those that I mentioned, clean water, sanitation, health, food, shelter, all these things are really severely underfunded at this time. We have to prioritize further as the condition continues, but obviously we hope funds will come in.
Humanitarian officials are calling for an immediate increase in funding from donors and governments to prevent a further deterioration of the crisis. But given the region's ongoing situation, help may not come quickly enough. Brendan Pastor, South News, New York.